Eric Polly, thank you for joining me. Let's talk about the Washington Commanders today. So, I like what Adam Peters is doing right now. They continue adding pieces to help Jaden Daniels, and we all know it. He's the guy you want to build around. What difference does a guy like Laramie Tunsil make to this team?
Yeah, so the offensive line played well above its weight class last season, which was very, a great sight for Washington Commander fans. But with that being
Hmm.
said, there really weren't many long-term answers. Like they have Cosme on the right side, Brandon Coleman, who's a rookie last year, who did a good job at times, but they really need to solidify that front for Jaden Daniels and this run game that Washington is so fixated on putting out there as well. And Larry Thompson means everything. A guy who is a
Yeah.
stalwart left tackle. Yes, he had his penalty issues last season, but the actual yardage he accrued for those penalties was not really a huge hiccup, despite the fact that he led the league in penalties. And there are some issues with Tunsil that they mentioned in Houston, whether it be in the locker room, some character things, but it seems like he's really excited to be in Washington and having that franchise style left tackle to protect Jaden Daniels' blind side is invaluable. And I think it was an absolutely fantastic move for Washington to go after a proven commodity in the tackle market.
Well, and that's it exactly as he is proven. And a lot of people are bringing up the penalties right now, but honestly, things like that can come down to coaching. And I just like what the Commanders are doing, that this could be such a good, fresh start for him, I think. Another piece they added, so they trade for Debo Samuel from the Niners. What do you expect to see from him in this offense?
Yeah, so I expect a reinvigorated Debo Samuel. Obviously, we
He
know it
needed
was
out.
absolutely. As we know, it's been tough for the Niners. The year after you lose in the Super Bowl that the Niners did 2 years ago into last year, yes, there were a ton of injuries you can't really plan for, but those years are really the most challenging. Like teams that lose in the Super Bowl really struggle to get back the year
Yep.
after. And we saw it with the 49ers and Debo, he's dealt with some injuries. They had his weight concerns, but it seems like he's really stoked to be here and he has this chip on his shoulder. Now you can say that about a ton of players, and injuries, of course, are inevitable and unpredictable. But Debo gives Washington exactly what they need, and a guy who can operate out of the backfield, can help operate in the slot with Terry McLaurin out wide, is fantastic after the catch with Cliff Kingsbury loving to run these quick screens or quick hitters to skilled players to then make some yards after the catch happen. And that's exactly what Debo does. So having that underneath threat that complements Terry and also that yard
Yep.
after the catch ability and that ability in the backfield, I think Debo Samuel is a perfect addition to the Washington offense.
Oh, I couldn't agree more with you. He needed out of San Francisco, and this just feels like such a good fit for both sides. So they bring some new guys in, but they also brought a ton of guys back. They re-sign Zach Ertz, John Bates, Jeremy McNichols, Bobby Wagner. It's a long list. How much does that continuity help with where this team is heading?
I think it helps a ton. I think one of the best ways to describe Washington last year was they seemed like a college team, the way that they played for their brothers. They truly loved the game and they loved playing
Yeah.
alongside one another. And I think that dynamic between Jaden Daniels and Bobby Wagner, which was heavily covered over the past season, that, little brother, big brother kind of dynamic was really impactful for the locker room. So keeping a veteran like Wagner, obviously meant a ton. And also keeping some of Washington's weapons like Noah Brown, Zach Ertz, veteran guys who've been around and also have had success with Jaden are absolutely crucial to integrating a Debo Samuel and having this offense take a step because we can't forget Cliff Kingsbury's in his first year of being an OC in Washington and Jaden Daniels was a rookie, so of course we would
Yeah.
expect the sky to be the limit here in Washington on offense.
Let's move to, so of all the moves they've made, there is one that's a bit surprising for me, Javon Kinlaw. So 3 year, 45 mil with I think 30 million guaranteed. So this one felt like, to me anyways, maybe a bit of an overpay, especially considering the depth at D line in this year's draft. What were your thoughts on this?
I thought it was definitely an overpay. I really thought Washington was going to work a way to restructure Jonathan Allen's
I
contract and
did
actually
too.
keep him around. I thought they were going to stay in that regard. Allen, obviously drafted by Washington, one of the former 2017 first round picks. So he's one of the only guys who's been here through the thick and thin of what's been happening in Ashburn. And based on the monetary value, it seemed like Kinlaw was definitely a little bit of an overpay. His tape has not been great, of course. The Jets last year had a ton of issues. Peters did draft and scout Kinlaw, so obviously he feels comfortable and familiar with what he can do, whether that be in the locker room, also on tape that maybe might not show up in the stat sheet. But this does seem like the most likely candidate for a contract that proves to age a little bit poorly and could definitely be considered an overpay. With that being said, Washington clearly felt they needed to bolster their defensive line, not just through personnel, but literally through physicality, through height, weight, and through bigger bodies up front. And Kinlaw does fit that mold with some guys like they have, of course, Deron Payne, Newton, who's another defensive tackle that they have, and they're also trying to build up a bigger front on the defensive side. So time will tell. Hopefully he does, hit his prime at 27, really use this as motivation rather than, not doing that in his contract year last year. So we shall see, though. On the surface, it seems like a very easy candidate to label as potentially an overpay this offseason.